teenage, never worry about acne.
Nah, I ain't never been with a baddie. She calm, so I added to the tally. Madison, but I'm calling her Maddie.
Hey yo, it's your boy Tommy coming at you with a brand new Clash Mini video, and today we're going to be doing a Clash Mini tier list where I place every single mini in the game into a category ranked from S tier all the way down to D tier. Now D tier is going to be the worst heroes in the game. C tier is going to be like, they're okay, you know, they're alright. Maybe you can fit them into like a niche deck, something like that. We've got the B tier, which would be probably like a solid hero. That's a solid hero. Not the best, not the worst, but can work in a lot of different decks. The A tier are going to be the very, very good heroes in the game, which you will see constantly winning you different matches. And then the S tier is probably going to be like cards that need to be nerfed. That we need to chill out, like these are the best cards in the game, and they go absolutely crazy. Now, full disclaimer, when it comes to tier lists, it's all opinion based. So if you agree or disagree with any of the card placements that I put onto this tier list, just let me know in the comment section down below. We can always debate it. These are going to be based off of my experiences, so I'll do the best I can to place these minis in the right tier. So without further ado, now we're going to start from the lowest tier and then work our way up to the very top. Now when it comes to the D tier, I gotta go ahead and start with these cards, man. Healing Ranger. I would actually go as far as to say she's the worst card in the entire game. Like, she just doesn't bring enough to the table. She's 3 elixir, which costs a lot. That's not a bad thing to have a 3 elixir card. It's the fact that she doesn't get her heal off fast enough. I think that both healers in this game, while we're talking about healers, let's just go ahead and place the battle healer into the D tier as well. Both healers don't get their abilities fast enough. We got characters like the Ewis who can get his ability off in 4 energy. Meanwhile, the healers, it's like 8 energy and 10 energy, something ridiculously high. So in order to get the energy off to actually get a meaningful heal, it just doesn't happen. The game moves way too fast for either of these characters to be viable in the current meta. Next is the Barbarian. He's a 2 elixir card. That's a good elixir cost, but it's just not enough to the table for 2 elixir. There's a lot of other cards in the game that can do what he does, right? There's no point in running a Barbarian when you can run somebody like the Miner, for example. He might be the worst 2 elixir card in the game. It's cool when he gets his Rage and his Potion going, but in the current meta, another thing with tier list, the meta changes where these characters get placed. With the Giant Skeleton being in the front, like there's just not enough value that you get from the Barbarian, and he is not that good. Now, moving up to the C tier, we do have the Knight. I like the Knight. He's a respectable card, 2 elixir, but once again, there's other cards in the game that can do what he does and do it way better, namely the Guard. If you're going to have a 2 elixir, what I like to call a throwaway card in your deck, there's no point in having the Knight, because the Guard, while he does have 1 less HP, his ability loads up faster, and he gets so much value out of his shield. A lot of the times with the Knight, the shield just does not come out in time, and he's just better. The Guard is just a better card, plain and simple. Next up, we have the Lumberjack. I love the idea behind the Lumberjack, but I think this goes back to, once again, his energy cost being a little bit too high, because for 2 elixir, his melee damage is actually quite weak. He can be crazy in some niche decks. That's why he's not into the D tier, because his 3rd star ability, if you level that up first, where he throws his potion out at the beginning of the battle, it could actually go kind of crazy because it speeds up your team, especially in like the Archer Queen decks. Like, it could work, but it's just 3 elixir. There's a lot of other valuable 3 elixir cards in this game, like the Bowler, for example, or just like the Mini Peck. Like, the cards that can do things better than the Lumberjack. I hope we see a Lumberjack buff. Love to see some buff for these lower tier heroes for sure. Next up is the Valkyrie. She is a little bit better than the Barbarian. They sort of have, you know, kind of the same kit to where they like speed up and there's a lot of melee damage. She's better for sure because she has AoE, but it's sort of the same thing. It's like you don't get a lot of worth out of her because of the meta with everybody playing the Giant Skeleton in the front. All of these melee cards, they're too straightforward. If they don't bring enough to the table, then they're just going to be screwed by Giant Skeleton. And even if it's not the Giant Skeleton, it's just, you know, it's a ranged meta, so they have to get close enough to be able to do anything. You're not going to get through some of these tanks in the front line, and it can be quite difficult to actually make her work. Next up, I do have the Mega Knight in C tier. I was debating this one because when you go up against a good Mega Knight, like there's some niche Mega Knight decks. Like, they put the Mega Knight with the Ice Wizard, you know, with the Archer Queen, and he can get very strong. It's just that at 0 stars, a lot of the times he's dying before he gets his ability off. So there's like almost no reason, and it's a big investment, right, to get that 4 elixir. It's a huge investment. If you're investing in a 4 elixir card, it better be super strong. If he gets up into the later games, you know, in the late game decks, if he gets up to 1, 2 stars, you know, even 3 stars, I don't recommend doing 3 stars. If he gets up to that 2 stars, okay, you know, now he's covering like a big part of the map. He gets a nasty knockup. The stun lasts for a long time. It's pretty good in niche decks, but just overall as an individual card, I don't see him being much higher than the C tier. Might see some buffs, you know, we'll see what happens. Now onto the B tier. I believe I have most of my minis placed in the B tier. These are just really solid cards that are good in a lot of decks. Like, these are very balanced, and you love to see it, right? So starting off with the B tier, we're gonna go with the Spear Goblin. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, Spear Goblin, that's a little bit too low. He's like very good. Outside of his initial spear, I don't find the Spear Goblin to be anything too crazy. Yes, if you land that spear, he is going to turn the tides. But not only do you have to do some really nice predictions, a little bit of it is a little bit of luck too. You know, you're not always going to be able to just full read your opponent. So if you do miss that spear in the beginning of the game, and if you put star value into this guy and you miss the spear, then you're sort of just sat there with a 2 elixir card, and there's like every other card in the game does more DPS than the Dark Goblin after the initial, or than the Spear Goblin after the initial spear. He's still a very solid card, and I run him in a lot of my decks, especially paired with the Bowler, right? When you synergize cards like the Bowler and the Spear Goblin, crazy things can happen. You can knock people out in one shot. Don't get it twisted. I think the Spear Goblin is strong. Just B tier, solid card. Next up is the P.E.K.K.A. P.E.K.K.A is better than the Mega Knight in my opinion. He just brings more to the table. Mega Knight does have some really good upgrades, and he scales into the late game better than the P.E.K.K.A in my opinion, but that's like round 5 late game. Other than that though, the P.E.K.K.A does a lot of damage. He's so good at shutting down miners. He's so good at shutting down Countess if he's placed in the back. He has the shield for block for the beginning of the game. He can tank so much damage if you want to play him in the front line, right? He's very versatile, and I just feel like the P.E.K.K.A brings more to the table. And his crit damage too, when you land that crit, you know, you start getting the star value on him, he will do a lot of damage. So I actually like the P.E.K.K.A a lot. I need to run him some more. I haven't been using him in a lot of decks just because, like I said, it's a giant skeleton meta. That's what we're living in right now. Next up on the B tier is the Magic Archer. I love the idea of the Magic Archer. I want him to rise up. I think he deserves a buff, just like a slight one. I think he needs more HP. He can't keep up. You know, his counterpart in this game is the Electro Wizard, who is currently, in my opinion, the best card in the entire game. He cannot keep up with him. He doesn't have enough health. Miners can get to him and put him down for a 4 elixir card. Just not enough sustain. But there are some nasty decks. Don't get it twisted. I know you guys have seen my recent videos with the Barbarian King. Yeah, there's some nasty decks. You can fit the Ewiz in, or the Magic Archer in. A very solid card overall. I love the Magic Archer, but he's solid. So I think he deserves a nice B tier placement. Next up is the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A, once again, it's like a ranged meta, so he's not going to be one of the best cards shining. But the Mini P.E.K.K.A with his 1-star upgrade with the Dissipate is so strong because he can shut down cards like the Shield Maiden up front if they're running a Shield Maiden deck and they always put her front and center. He keeps hitting her, she's not going to get her shield value off with that Dissipate. Same with the Countess. If he goes to the back, you could even place the Mini P.E.K.K.A in the corner with Dissipate, and the Countess will TP and then be stuck. Like, the Countess isn't going anywhere. So the Dissipate is kind of nice on the Mini P.E.K.K.A, and he's got that random crit value where you can hit for like 4 damage. So the Mini P.E.K.K.A, overall a very solid card. Next up on the list, we have the Dark Goblin. I love the Dark Goblin, but it's very tough. A lot of people would probably argue that you should put the Dark Goblin in a lower tier. I don't believe so. I believe the meta right now isn't horrible. It was way worse when the Shield Maiden was on top and she had that super long shield, and he still struggles against Shield Maiden decks. If the Shield Maiden enters the arena, good luck. You're gonna have to like work your deck a little bit differently, which is why if you're building a Dark Goblin deck, you got to make sure you have multiple forms of attack. I would highly suggest running a Miner, running Archer, so you spread out the map a little bit, right? Because if you don't do that and he's your only win condition, you go up against Shield Maiden, it's a guaranteed loss. But outside of that, when he starts ramping up his attacks, if you can protect him, like I said, with the Archer and the Miner combination and keep him alive, he will help you run through the entire deck. He's a solid card, and I like having him in the B tier, but I could see people arguing to put him down into the C tier. Next up, we have the Wizard Brothers, actually. We're going to go both Ice Wizard and Wizard into the B tier. I know some people are probably going to say, hey, Ice Wizard should probably be like A tier. He's got this nice slow. In my experience, I think he's a solid card, but I think I like seeing him here in the B tier because he is just that, right? He's solid. In order to get him going, you really need to invest a lot of stars into him, and there are just some decks where, you know, it's got to be tank heavy, really. Like, if it's just a Giant Skeleton up front, they're running, like, Archer Queen in the meta, or if it's just a Giant Skeleton, they're running Countess in the meta. I feel like he doesn't get enough value even when you get to hitting multiple targets with the super slow. So I don't think it fits super well with him in the current meta. He could be A tier, and I respect anybody that says, yeah, he should be A tier, but I think he deserves B tier. Wizard is another one of those cards where I almost put him in the A tier, but I think he's just a solid card as well. He's got the anti-hit, which is really, really good in this Countess meta. If you catch the Countess in that, she's not going to be able to heal, and each shot he lands does do 3 damage per shot once you get the second star ability where he gets that additional damage over 4 seconds. So the Wizard is actually quite good, and I'm looking to build like a deck solely around the Wizard because I feel like he does get a lot of value, but once again, he needs a lot of stars in order to get going, and he does do a lot of damage, but solid hero nonetheless. I feel like A tier, they got to be like great, you know what I'm saying? So he might be one of the highest one of the highest here in the B tier, I would say, either him or the Ice Wizard. So I'm not putting this in any exact order per se. Just solid hero. So moving into the A tier, we have the card you guys see a lot, the Bowler. The Bowler is a very, very, very solid card because of his prediction ability. A lot of these different maps have tiles, whether it's the energy tile, whether it's the healing tile, whether it's the mirror tile, where you can pretty much guarantee that the opponent is going to be playing something at least in one of those rounds on that tile. So he's very good at shutting down the E-Wiz because everyone's putting their E-Wiz straight onto that tile to get that insane value. And then it's just, he's very good with predictions, he's tanky, and he's a range unit who does 2 damage. So he can actually survive against the miner a lot better than other range unit can, and he can put the miner down as well with that 2 damage per shot. So I love the Bowler. Solid. It's very hard for me to create a deck right now without having the Bowler in it in the current meta. He's one of those staple cards that you need to have. Now, next up on this list, I do have the Guard. I still argue that he's the best 2 elixir throwaway card in the game, is what I continue to call him. You can use him as a frontline tank if you want to, but with the Giant Skeleton in the meta, I feel like he is not necessarily the one you want to do that with, but he can help out pretty well in the front line by starting off with a shield right away. Like a 2-star Guard as a tank in the front is going to stay alive for a very, very long time, but he's also very good for baiting the miner in the corner, or baiting the Countess with the L formation in the corner, and he's super good at countering the miner. So I love having the Guard here in the A tier. He's in, I would argue, like 95% of my decks. You're gonna see me have the Guard, right? Next up for the A tier, I do want to put in the Archer. I love Archer. She gets so much value. In this game, we are playing in a ranged meta. What that means is everyone's playing sit-back decks, right? So in that case, the Archer is so good at targeting the backline. And we'll just go ahead and talk about her combo. The combo that I like to put together. Like, I like to have either the Archer Miner in the same deck, or if I'm running Countess, then I run Countess Miner or Countess Archer. But when I'm not running Countess, these 2 combinations right here are insane, because the Archer will hit even just at 1. She's extremely good at 1-star. You get her to 1-star where she hits multiple targets. She's going to get crazy value by whittling down the health of the backline troops. That'll allow the miner to slide into there and clean them up. And even if you don't have miner, she's whittling them down. So if you're running like a Shield Maiden deck, the Shield Maiden with her Reflect will do a lot of damage to their range units, and with the Archer comboing there, you're going to be able to clean up the backline very easily. She's so solid. You can protect her well. She's got unlimited range, so you can actually use her to trap guards. You know, if you combine her with like an Archer, Magic Archer, whoever else has unlimited range. Overall, solid card. And Miner has to be A tier. I know he can get countered sometimes if you don't know how to play him correctly in a way, but also some people are very good at countering the Miner, right? So if somebody puts like a P.E.K.K.A, they're running like a super beefy, tanky deck, and they drop a P.E.K.K.A in the back, like the Miner's not going to get through the P.E.K.K.A. But in my opinion, if you're running Miner, he should be one of your win conditions. He shouldn't be a throwaway card who you're leaving at 0 stars. A 3-star Miner can hold his own in the back against like a lot. He could be getting 1v2'd in the back, but the thing with him is when you have him at 3 stars in the late game with that cleave, it doesn't matter. He's going to hit multiple targets, so he's going to get his value, he's going to get his worth, and when he does get that kill, sayonara, bro. He's going to start tearing up their back line. And once again, you want to make sure you combo the Miner with someone like the Countess or with someone like the Archer. Now into the S tier. These are characters that definitely need to get nerfed quite a bit, I would say. We got to start off with the Giant Skeleton. The Giant Skeleton is the best frontline tank in the game. That is hands down, no questions asked. But I think the reason for that is the glitch to where he gets the stun value for free. You don't even have to 3-star him to get that stun value. He gets it automatically at 0 stars. So he's starting with a star. That's kind of broken. That's kind of busted. So once they fix that, I mean, he's still going to be very good. Don't get it twisted. He will still be meta, in my opinion. Will he be S? Probably A. He's a solid meta card. But now you have to invest that 3 elixir if you want to get that stun value, which he just gets for free, right? If you give that automatic stun value to like other cards, you give them that automatic 1-star, they're going to rise up in the tiers. So yeah, he's S. He will probably remain high in the game, but it's mainly because he has that broken ability. And then the best card in the game that everybody's sick and tired of is the Electro Wizard. I'm trying, like, there are a lot of fun cards in this game, but when there's a card that's as good as the E-Wiz in the game, there is absolutely nothing that you can do to stop him. There's nothing you can do. You cannot stop the E-Wiz. If you're not running E-Wiz in most case scenarios, you're screwed, especially on the energy map. Good luck. Like, your game's gonna be over with. You're just always, can you beat E-Wiz without an E-Wiz? Yeah, I do it all the time, but you're always going to be at a disadvantage. That's just how it goes. He gets way too much value. His energy is way too low. His attack speed is way too high. The fact that he can stun 4 targets with just a 1-star ability, and then he starts getting into the late game with the 2 stars. He can get dissipated if you're going up against certain cards, which is so toxic. You can get the plus 2 second stun. Like, this guy needs to be nerfed somewhere. Where they want to do it, they can choose, pick whatever they want. I would just say, if you really want to leave his star abilities alone, double his energy value, man. There's cards in this game that need to half their energy values, like the Battle Healer, like the Healing Ranger. Double his energy, right? Or just, in my opinion, his abilities are still strong regardless, so maybe nerf some of those abilities, right? Maybe instead of 4 targets, maybe make him stun 1 target, and then you don't. That's a hard nerf, actually, to where he stuns 1. If you upgrade, you can like maybe stun 3 or something like that, or even like Dissipate is toxic too. I remove Dissipate. There's a lot of things they can do, so take it whatever direction you want. Nerf the E-Wiz. But this is my Clash Mini tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I think it's a pretty solid one, in my opinion. And it'll change, of course, as the meta goes on. Let me know what you agree or disagree with, and we'll talk about that in the comment sections down below. But hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and hope you go on to enjoy the rest of the day.